Hi everyone, welcome to the latest podcast here at the Icehouse. My name is Maryse and I'm one of the Customer Growth Partners. Today I have Shayne from Hobbiton. He is the General Manager for Sales and Marketing. Also, he is an Icehouse alumni of the Leadership Development Programme. Welcome, Shayne.
Thank you for having me.
No worries. Thank you so much for taking the time to sit with me for the next little while and have a bit of a chat about you and Hobbiton and a little bit about your Icehouse experience. So before we start, please can you tell me what that is in the background?
That's Small, the dragon. You may have seen him in the Hobbit trilogy.
Yes, I have. I have actually watched the Hobbit trilogy a few times, as well as Lord of the Rings. Good. How many times have you watched it?
Too many to count. I usually watch the Lord of the Rings or the Hobbit movies when I'm flying around the world to represent Hobbiton, which I haven't done a lot of lately. So I've watched them a few at home now that the Lord of the Rings are on Netflix.
Yeah, very good, very good. Hey, so tell me a little bit about your history with Hobbiton. I think you've been there just over 7 years.
Yeah, I've been with Hobbiton just over 7 years now, as you said. So I came in originally as the food and beverage manager. So we've got a beautiful themed pub out there on the movie set where people finish their experience. So I guess make their way through the Hobbiton movie set site, learning how a piece of rural New Zealand was turned into a film set. And then after that, after about an hour out there in the movie set itself, people are usually pretty thirsty and want to put their feet up. So in 2012, we added on a fully themed pub, which is the Green Dragon Inn. So that was my first job when I came into Hobbiton, was to go in there and help the team get that set up, and then ran that for the first 2 years. Did all the tough jobs that you do out there, like spending a bit of time with the brewers, Good George, developing the drinks for Hobbiton movie set, which they've done a fantastic job of. So I was part of the quality control team with that, testing the different recipes they were coming up with.
Oh, that would have been a hard job.
It was very tough. We took it very seriously. We spent a lot of time working on those, but they are tasty and people seem to enjoy them now. And then after around 2 years in the food and beverage role at Hobbiton, I moved over into the sales and marketing department and have overseen that ever since. So pretty cool time to be part of tourism and Hobbiton movie set, as we've had a huge growth over the last few years.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Absolutely amazing. I remember going to the Green Dragon after my little tour around Hobbiton, and I don't know why I remember it, but I always remember drinking that beautiful cider, and yes, now I know why it was so beautiful. Yeah, I really enjoy the Good George brews.
Yes.
Yeah. Very cool. Hey, so for those who don't know much about Hobbiton, the history of Hobbiton and why it came to be in Matamata, are you able just to just sum up in in a few minutes how, from the very start to where you are now?
Yeah, happy to. So our location was chosen because the Waikato is known for its beautiful rolling green hills. So the location scouts actually flew over the property that we're on here now, which is the Alexander Farm. And they saw the beautiful rolling hills, scattered tree lines, but more importantly, at the centre of our location, there's a well-established tree, which they turned into the party tree. And then they were able to dot those hobbit holes into the hillside. So we were one of, I think it was around 158 locations used for Lord of the Rings. So they came out here, approached the family and said, would like to come and build a movie set on your back doorstep. They agreed to it. They came in and they constructed the movie set for Lord of the Rings over around 9 months, and then filmed out here for 3 months. And then once they finished, they started deconstructing everything. But in that time, the first movie hit the cinemas, and the locals recognised the Kaimai mountain ranges in the background of the Hobbiton shots in Lord of the Rings, and realised that Hobbiton was on their back doorstep. So the Alexander family had people knocking on their door asking if they could come and have a look around. They'd say no, there was nothing remaining, but that's when they had the idea it could be quite a good tourism venture. So in 2002, they renegotiated their contracts and then ran the first tour in December 2002 through what then was the remnants of Hobbiton, 17 white plywood fronts scattered along their 12-acre farm that was the movie set. So the guide used to take the people through, tell them a lot of stories and point out photo boards of what was there the first time round. But the big breakthrough for us as a business was 2008. Peter Jackson came back. He said he wanted to rebuild for the Hobbit movie, which then turned into a double, which then turned into a trilogy. Said they wanted to rebuild the movie set exactly as it was the first time round, with the Hobbit holes in the same location.
Yeah.
So the Alexander said, yep, you can come back, but it needs to be built permanent. So that's when the business is now, as you see it today, that we're a permanent movie set site, and the business itself is a joint venture between the Alexander family and Peter Jackson.
Oh, that's absolutely amazing. And thank you, Alexander family. A fantastic Waikato-based family farm.
Yeah.
I grew up in the Waikato, and I've worked in various roles in agriculture, and yeah, just knowing how passionate farmers are in the Waikato and all around New Zealand.
And I think that's
really
what,
great to see.
at the moment, as we're operating in this New Zealand environment, a lot of people are enjoying, because it is a classic New Zealand story, and quite a Kiwi New Zealand story of how a piece of rural New Zealand was turned into a film set. So half our visitors haven't actually seen the movies or read the books. They're just coming to hear that story of turning a farm into a movie set.
Oh, that's fantastic. Speaking of people coming to see Hobbiton, hey, it's been a tough few months. You know, you're in the tourism industry. I'm assuming the majority of people that come along and go through Hobbiton from overseas. How has business been for the last few months?
Business the last few months, to be completely honest, has been pretty tough. It has been a really tough time for the whole team. As a business, previously, we're 80% international, 20% domestic. So New Zealand is always our biggest single source as far as a country goes, but it is 20%. So when the borders closed, well, actually before the borders closed, when the 2-week quarantine period was put in with anyone travelling, for us as a tourism industry and as Hobbiton, that was pretty much the closing of the borders, because people aren't going to come to New Zealand to spend 2 weeks in quarantine in a hotel and then travel from that point. So that's when we had to start rethinking things as a business and start putting a plan in place going forward, which, like a lot of other industries, it's a hard thing to do because there's no end date on this at the moment. So we're just playing what's in front of us, and new information keeps coming to hand as we've moved through the different alert levels, and what that means for our business. But we ended up closing on the 21st of March, and we were closed for a couple of months before we were able to reopen again around a month ago.
So what did you do during that lockdown?
It was actually a very, very busy time for us. Unfortunately, we had to rethink our business and what that was going to look like. As I mentioned before, we are quite reliant on the borders to get our international tourists come in. Kiwis have always been a hugely important part of our business and continue to be, but it's always been that market mix of New Zealanders and the internationals. So when you've got 80% of your market wiped out for the foreseeable future, we had a lot of time to sit down and plan of what our business was going to look like going forward. Is there a little bit of reimagining, which I've heard that word too much lately, but reimagining of our business, and any product diversification that we could do to get Kiwis through the door. With that as well, we did have a large restructure happening at Hobbiton at the same time, just as a result of the closure of the borders and the situation with COVID-19 happening. Even when we came out of lockdown, we were very aware that we were going to be a different scale business than we were the first time round, because we opened purely for New Zealanders. Which so far we are quite humbled by the support. We have had a lot of New Zealanders through. But during that lockdown period, we were just planning what the future looked like for Hobbiton, and what our staff base would look like going forward as part of that. And then as a result of that, because we did have a lot of redundancies at Hobbiton, we were a team of 280, we're now a team of 26. Well, we were a team of 26 during the lockdown period, but luckily as we've come out and we've had that fantastic support by our domestic market, we have managed to re-employ around 12 people. So we're a team now of 42, and that's hugely exciting for the team and for us to be able to bring people back in. But during that lockdown period, it was just focusing on the business, processing a lot of refunds for all our international customers that couldn't get here for any fault of their own. So we were processing all those refunds, communicating with them, and more importantly, supporting our staff that were quite uncertain and going through a really difficult time. So we were making sure the support systems were around them, and we were communicating with them as much as we could. And sometimes that was even telling them, we have no update to tell you at this stage because we're still working through things,
Mm.
but they really appreciated being communicated with as part of that process.
Yeah, communication is key. We've been hammering that out in a lot of our webinars over the last few months as well. It's not a nice time for anyone, and not knowing is even worse. But knowing that everyone else isn't knowing is just makes you feel just a little bit more confident that everyone's on the same boat.
Yeah, and on the nicer side of things, it was quite a nice time to spend a bit of time with the family and the kids and things as well, and things like that as well. So there were some really nice things to lock down to balance that tough time that everyone was going through.
Yeah. And did any ideas or thoughts during lockdown from everyone at Hobbiton? Did any of those come to life, or are you looking at implementing anything in particular going forward?
Yeah, there's a few we're looking at the moment. Our plan was to reopen, start hosting people again, seeing how we went in that market, and then adjust from there. We didn't want to make any huge adjustment to our product or our product offering before we opened and saw what the response was from Kiwis. The main thing we have done is reduced our tour departures. Because we've got less people coming through every day. But we still do have a few product diversification ideas in the back pocket. All of Hobbiton lights up as part of our evening banquet tour. So we were exploring doing nighttime tours of Hobbiton with our guests with little handheld lanterns, because most of our New Zealand market haven't seen Hobbiton by night. So we thought that would have been a nice way to get customers in here with us. But luckily, now that we're down at level 1, we've actually been able to reinstate our evening banquet tour product, which is when you have the tour of Hobbiton movie set, finish up in the Green Dragon Inn, where you have a big Hobbit banquet feast where the food's all laid out in front of everyone, and then give them little copper handheld lanterns at the end of the night. So we have put that back in, and we were planning on having that product on hold until December, but we had a lot of emails from Kiwis saying they've always wanted to do the product, when are we bringing it back? So we've managed to bring it back 6 months ahead of schedule, which has been really nice. But also a couple of thoughts we had from our team that were offering up ideas during that period. We're looking at family packages because we needed to appeal to families to come through. So as a result of that, we now have a new family package for people in the region or people in New Zealand that can come through for our domestic market, with quite a compelling price point that we've put together. And we'll also put in gold card discounts for senior citizens as well. So we've done a little bits of that we haven't done in the past, but now that we're working in a domestic only environment, we've just looked at what we can do to connect with Kiwis mainly.
Oh, fantastic. And good timing really, isn't it? Because it's the school holidays.
Yeah, it's really good. And we've changed up our messaging too. So we have put in new offers and products and packages around that, like the family package. But as part of our tour product out here, we've always had children under 8 go free. We've just never really talked about it in the past. Whereas now we're just changing the messages that we're putting out there in the domestic market. So we're really focusing on our kids go free with a full paying adult, as well as the domestic market, so people can see that we are quite an affordable option for people coming through. So it has been quite an interesting exercise. Now our focus is purely here domestically with what's in front of us, for how we can use the same tools but just deliver them slightly different to appeal to different markets.
Oh, that's fantastic. So a completely random question, but have you met any of the actors from Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit?
Yes,
Oh,
I have. In my previous role that I mentioned, when I was the food and beverage manager, we had all the dwarves from The Hobbit out here for the opening of the Green Dragon. So I met all of them, which was pretty fun. I've met Elijah Wood, who plays Frodo. He was out here for the filming of the Air New Zealand safety video.
Yes.
So when they were out here, we were actually filming that video while we were still running tours. So we had a little 15-minute break in between groups where Elijah had to come out of the Hobbit hole, deliver his lines, but then hide because they were trying to keep it a secret. So that was quite interesting, trying to work that around the everyday operation. And at the end, he was actually photographed because he got bored and stuck his head out. And as people do, they recognised him and got very excited about it. So I posted about it on YouTube. So that one linked. but also met Sureen McKellen and Mary and Pippin, the two mischievous hobbits. They came out filming a travel show one day and served people in the Green Dragon and surprised them out there. So had the
Oh,
opportunity in this role to meet a lot of cool people from the movies.
oh, that's fantastic.
Mm.
Absolutely fantastic. And while we're talking about highs and meeting some pretty cool actors, uh, when Hobbiton opened after lockdown, how did you feel?
It was a pretty special time for the team, really, because there was so much uncertainty over the lockdown period, and we were trying our best to plan for the future, not knowing what sort of market we would be operating in. And we're pretty proud of what we do out here at Hobbiton and think we have a pretty cool product that we've had really good response to over the years.
Mm,
But when purse strings start tightening in an economic crisis, the likes of tourism attractions, all those things that aren't necessary, are the ones that people start to not come to. So we were uncertain what it would look like when we reopened, but we opened for the long weekend a month ago, and it was really humbling, the support we had from Kiwis. We thought we might get 50 people through the door, and we ended up having 300 people through a day over that long weekend. So that meant a lot to the team because it was such an uncertain time. We didn't know what we were coming back to. But as soon as we opened the doors, everyone got back into their swing of things and into the flow. And it was pretty exciting. And now it's still pretty special as we're hosting people out here every day, because we know that we're not a necessity, we're something that people come to because they want to.
mm,
So we're just glad people are choosing to spend their money with us and come out here and enjoy
mm.
a Middle Earth experience.
Yeah. Oh, that's absolutely fantastic. Um, I'm trying to organise something with my colleagues at the Icehouse. I know a few of them have expressed interest in coming along to Hobbiton one day, but they didn't really have anyone to go with. So yeah, well, we will see.
Bring the whole team.
Oh, fantastic. Hey, so at the beginning of our podcast, I mentioned, that, you're the sales and marketing manager from Hobbiton, but you're also an Icehouse alumni of the Leadership Development Programme. It was
Yes.
absolutely awesome having you and your colleague Adam to come along and join us on this leadership journey. Can you tell me, why did you decide to register for the program?
We registered for the program because at the time Hobbiton was going through a huge period of growth.
Mm-hmm.
And we have our owner-operator, our CEO, Russell Alexander, who founded the business. So the idea from the board was to put a bit more structure and support in around him.
Mm-hmm.
So really we went onto that program with the idea that it would give us the tools to think a little bit more as an owner-operator,
Mm-hmm.
and get a bit more of a wider perspective over all the different areas of the business. So at the time, as I mentioned, we were around 300 staff. So we're a large business going through a huge period of growth. So the main reason was to put the support in there for Russell, but also for us as well. We have ambitions and we want to grow and develop as well. So it was just good to have that opportunity to take up the Icehouse course and have a little bit of personal development and a little bit of growth, and meet some people from other industries. Because as tourism industry, we're very social and we connect a lot, but it was nice to get outside of the tourism industry and talk to people from different industries and build up a network in those areas as well, where quite often they've got the same problems, it's just applying it to a different industry. So yeah.
Mm. Oh, fantastic. And it was 3 months. The first 2 months were 3 days, 2 evenings. How was that for you, being taken away from the business for the initial 3 days?
Yeah, it was fine. Yeah, they were happy. We had a lot of managers in place and leaders in place within the business. So we were lucky we were in the position which at the time that we could step away from the business for a few days and people would just carry on running things and still hosting people and getting on with the day-to-day side of the business. So yeah, as much as I'd love to say they struggled without me, things were fine.
That's good leadership in itself. And can you sum up your experience of the Leadership Development Program and say, a few words?
Yep. I think the first one would be intense. It was quite an intense process, but it was worthwhile. So intense and worthwhile would be probably the two words I'd put on it.
Oh, that's fantastic. Quite strong words as well, which is amazing.
Mm.
Very cool. And where to for you? What are your plans for the next well, definitely the next few months and yeah, going forward?
Yeah, going forward, as we have had huge changes as a business. We're currently doing around 10% of what we were, and there's no denying this is going to be a tough time for the tourism industry, because there's no end date on whether we're going to reopen the borders or whether we're going to get a trans-Tasman bubble, anything like that. And again, it needs to be safe to do so. So we're not trying to put any pressure on anyone to open that sooner than is safe. We're just lucky that New Zealand's got to the position we are at the moment, that we are able to travel freely throughout New Zealand and interact with each other again, which puts us in a good position. But yeah, there's some exciting opportunities in the tourism industry at the moment, and also some exciting opportunities at Hobbiton at the moment as a business as we start to regrow. Something I am quite enjoying is now we're a team of 42 as of today. Just getting a lot more hands-on and engaged with the business and interacting with the customers, and that's helping us look at the diversification of the product and how we are selling it to New Zealanders and the interactions we're having with them. So yeah, it's a lot more hands-on at the moment. Today, for example, I've done a tour, I've driven a bus, I've done a little bit of sales and marketing, and then also been a barista in the cafe covering a shift for an hour. So getting a lot more hands-on into those different departments has given me an appreciation of all the different areas of the business and how they work together. And I think it's really made me reassess things as we start to rebuild. So there's no doubt this is going to be a tough time, but it's also an opportunity to rebuild and in some areas rebuild things better the second time around.
Yeah, and fantastic. And how's the Matamata community right now? Are they all, I'm guessing you know a lot of people in Matamata. Do you see them come through Hobbiton quite a bit?
Yeah, we are. We're seeing a lot of at the moment mainly North Islanders, but we've had a big surge in bookings from Christchurch, which has been good too. But yeah, in our local community, we have been quite humbled by the support of people coming through, and even a few people, our local suppliers and partners that are going through tough times as well, but popping out, checking in how we are, and again vice versa, us checking in, seeing how they're going, because as a local community, we were, I wouldn't say reliant, but we did. As a community, I suppose, we were quite reliant in several different businesses in town on the tourists. So now we are in this together, trying to navigate the new future as we rebuild. But yeah, we've had a lot of Matamata locals and Waikato locals on tours, and that's pretty exciting too. And the amount of people that we've had come through from all throughout New Zealand that have told us they've always wanted to come through and experience Hobbiton, but now they're making the most of it and they want to support us and support the industry. So they're doing it now. So that's been pretty humbling too for us in the team.
That's awesome. And that's something that we are absolutely big on at the Icehouse, and that you've experienced too is around community.
Yeah, community and keeping up with those networks, and again, just keeping up the communication with everyone, because we're pretty proud of our place in the local community. And Matamata and what we offer to New Zealand as a destination. So yeah, we're excited to be able to bring people back into our business, so then hopefully those effects flow on to the wider community of Matamata and the Waikato.
Yeah, well, that's fantastic. All right, hey, it's all a wrap now. So I'd like to thank you so much, Shayne, for taking the time to chat with me for the last half an hour. It's been an absolute pleasure, and it was great seeing you again. No doubt I'll be seeing you again soon, hopefully down at Hobbiton.
Look forward to it. Thanks
All
very
right.
much for having me.
Thank you, everyone.